Good evening, everyone. Monday, March 17th, going over a little trading recap. I almost forgot I was going to be talking about a couple stocks today, but I had actually posted in our stock chat this morning for the Consistent Profits community that I didn't call out NAOV and QUBT, and I'm glad I didn't, but they were both stocks that I ended up having losses on, and in the spirit of transparency, which I always want to be with y'all, I'm going to go over those trades. So let's go ahead and take a look at these two trades. I actually had a pretty solid pre-market, but then lost these two in the regular market, and then didn't really take too many other stocks for trades during the day, just some small ones here and there. So let's take a look at this at NAOV first, because this was news a couple days ago. This was actually last week. And there was an independent study, their device published, shows that the study that was published, 86% UTI reduction, 70% fewer blockages. Okay, so positive news here. Not the greatest, not the worst. This was a very small market cap, free float of under 800,000, so this is a micro float, and pretty solid volume. I mean, it had 42 million on the day. And during the pre-market, it was very interesting, right? Because I think this is where the news happened last week. So it gaps up, it's kind of consolidating, but forming higher lows in the pre-market, then gaps up again in the pre-market, comes all the way back down. And then, this is like after hours in the pre-market on Friday. So what we're working with here is that we can see it looks like there is a breakout here because it closes above this area. Remember, we want to find breakouts, not fake outs. And this is just, this entire wick has been now replaced by a green candle that closed over here on the 5 minute. And cool, just sometimes, I get paranoid that I'm not recording. Even when I look at it, I still have to double check. So anyways, just making sure. So we can see here that we have this breakout, and then what I had initially drawn, I was looking on the 5 minute. I was also looking on the 10 minute on this one. We have this red candle here that gets engulfed by this green candle, and then this big meaty breakout candle over here. So we see that on the 5 minute. On the 10 minute, let's see what we can find. We see now from 359 down to 334, we have sort of this zone. However, this one is kind of just consolidates here. Then we see these two engulf, so still kind of in this range. But on this time frame, it actually doesn't look too sexy, because we've got pretty much this actually knifing below this demand zone. So I think the way that I had set it up, same with the 15 minute. So let's go back to the 5 minute. This is why it's always important to look on multiple time frames to kind of see where you can get the best results. Because we can see here, I remember now. Okay, so I had initially drawn a demand from the top of this wick down to the bottom of this one. Main reason I did that one was because of just the percentage of the size of this demand zone. It's about 5.5%. So I'm willing to use the entirety of that space. And what we have here is, if we move this all the way out, we have this pretty much, I think this closed at the top of this was, hold on, the high of this candle is 370. And then the bottom of this candle, I remember in pre-market actually saying 371. Or maybe, you know what? No, we were looking at it just a few minutes later. Over here, it was down to 370, right? So we actually see that this one retested this one. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so it's not confusing. So even I'm like, if I'm confusing myself, I can only imagine what some of you who are seeing this for the first time are thinking. So let's just go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. So I was watching this at the breakout, and we can see that it actually hit this level. The top is 370, hits 370 right here. So, and then it makes a nice move up to 393. So this range here from the bottom to here is about a 6% trade. It actually even goes even higher a little bit later, all the way up to almost 8%. But so that basically means that this trade is finished, right? Because I only want to risk the first touch of the demand zone, and it touches it. I mean, literally to the penny. So that counts. And that's for me why I had a losing trade on this, because I usually don't encounter it to the penny like this when I have a demand zone. I usually see it come further in. I was like, oh, maybe it just like hit the top of it and it's going to come back, and or we're going to see it kind of go into the bottom of the zone. So it actually did. I had missed this trade, but I was watching it and I was like, okay, I'm going to shrink this demand zone. So it kind of like is just a tighter area here because there's like all this consolidation. So I'm going to set up my entries from 356 down to 347. And I was waiting for market open. Sure enough, it actually hit. I mean, it went a little bit lower, but I had my entries down here just below to 347. I think I had an average in the 350s. And I was trying to get a gain all the way up to like 370 because I wanted, I think my average is about 352. I wanted to get like a solid 5% trade. So we take 352 all the way up to here. I mean, that was like 4%. But that was what I was essentially looking for. I wanted it to go up and test the resistance point at this 21 EMA. Instead, it came down here to 346. It went up to 362. I think this was like a 3% trade. And then that was the best. Actually, it was a little bit higher. But that was the best that it did. After that, I still had my shares in here. And I actually had entries even lower, and it just completely knifed through this zone. So all in all, it was not a good trade for me. It was a loser. I was able to cut out of it pretty quickly. But yeah, I was expecting it to kind of hang around in this area more because you have all of this consolidation here. I mean, this is over 12 bars, 5 minutes, an hour of like jumping around movement, basically between where it can't close under 333 and it can't close over 365. Yet in 10 minutes it completely whiffed. So that was an L for me. Sure enough, there were other trades on this, but this demand zone, I think I would have had to been higher. I would have had to include more. So I actually did not hit a trade on this one. I'm trying to see if it was more succinct on the 15 minute. If you had played up to this wick, could have maybe snagged it down here, but this one definitely had a nicer return, being able to snag the bottom here from this like 277 area all the way up to 330s, potential 18% trade there. So whatever, win some, we lose some, lost on this one. And yeah, I always write notes to myself, especially when I have a losing trade. It's like, do not even touch this the second time that it hits the zone. Like, yeah, it could have worked here like we saw, but it's just not worth it because these moves happen so fast. And I was trading this manually, so I didn't have my automated sells on here. I had my stops, but I didn't have my automated sells. I was trying to sell out in chunks, and that's usually kind of how I do it, and just never hit that level. So, and that's also the thing. Sometimes day two plays aren't as strong as the day one plays. So I really like when I can find stocks that just have like fresh news, the flavor of the day. That's what we always look for. Next one we want to look at was QUBT. Now this was a theme trade. This was a trade that because of the NVIDIA conference, they're talking about quantum computing tomorrow, or I think it even started today. I know the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, is talking tomorrow, I think in the afternoon. So there may still be some legs on these. This one already was moving a lot since last Friday. I mean, this went from the fives all the way up to the nines almost. So big potential trade here. Now let's go ahead and delete all of this. So I want to take a look at what I saw. So I was looking at this one actually, I want to say on 15-minute time frame. And where I was initially looking at it was I was like, okay, we have this kind of wedge breakout here. And then we have a constant stream of candles up here. So where would my demand zone be? Let's see what the top of this candle is, the last one before the breakout, to the top of this. So that's only minus 2.68%. Right, what I should have done is brought it down a little bit. However, I had it up here. And I was looking for my last entries around just under the 797, I think. And then my stop was around 794. And even if I had it all the way down here to the bottom of this red candle, it still would have, wicked down. And I wasn't paying attention to this EMA, just in case I wanted to have a little bit more room, since say I bring it down all the way here, that's 5%, right? And that's almost on the nose. But it still, to me, felt like, okay, these are 15-minute candles, and this is completely breaking down. This doesn't make sense to me. This almost makes me think what was initially a bullish pattern is becoming bearish, and it's just completely losing its pacing here. So I stopped out at the 794. Wasn't a huge loss here. My average was in the low 8s, and then it came all the way down to 777. Bounced off of this EMA, and then made its move higher into the 8.4s. So this actually, had a 7% move just there if I'd caught the bottom, and then it went even higher, almost 10% here. So for me, that one is like a lesson in one. Have less confidence in these theme plays, especially the day 2 theme plays. Right? This wasn't day 1. Day 1 was, and I think we had even taken a trade on. It was a trade I took last week on. I don't know if it was QUBT or QBTS, but it was this one. It was a perfect day 1 play in this area. This is the first day of movement here, and we can see that it came back, tested this demand zone, made a move down to 886s, and then made a huge move. Well, relatively huge, but 10% move in an hour and 15 minutes. Almost, a whole dollar move. Whereas if we look at this day 2, kind of the same thing happens here. This would have been the last demand zone I would have seen on here. Similar chart to QUBT, and we totally see it get stuffed underneath here. This one even closes under, so I would be really hesitant. Sure, it bottoms at 1020s, and then it makes a move higher, but I don't like to see candles going below this level. So that kind of takes me back to the drawing board of a rule. Theme plays I only want to play the first day. I'm careful on day 2. It's also a very tepid market, so I really just want to be focusing on what those day 1 plays are. Because I'm even realizing this now, talking about QBTS, QUBT, the one I actually took as a trade today, and NAOV. These are all day 2 plays. So if I'd looked at, one of the 1 day plays, I think SCNX was a day 1 possibly. I don't even see news here, so I'm trying to see if there's another one that's better. ANTE. Yeah, this is also why I didn't really trade much today. I didn't see a whole lot. MGRM was a day 1 play. There was actually a really good move on this one. We can see over here, we had a move in this range. This was the candle before the breakout up to here. 7% range, came in, touched this area, 350s to 360s would have had the average, made a move almost up to 380. So that would have been like a 5-6% move. Other than that, didn't really see a whole lot. So yeah, just focus on the day 1 plays, the ones that have the most news, the most volume, most volatility. Keep winning, keep grooving. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.